You're the CEO of Friendly Mobile, but I want to ask you, why is it important to be humble as a leader?
First of all, it really comes down to I overworked out, I was over dieting to a point where some parts of my bones and my joints got weaker. It was an obsession.
In your perspective, leadership is showing up. What do you mean by showing up?
Showing up is about being, everybody could be talented, but then what gets you to the next level? What gets you to be the next Michael Jordan, the next LeBron James? I always looked at myself and said, if I was a manager, I have to prepare myself and prepare my mind for it.
That mindset has to be built. You don't just get it. What is the high performance mindset?
For me, the high performance mindset is
Shadi Al Abdalsalam is the CEO of Friendly Mobile. In this episode, we spoke about why it's important to be humble as a leader. We spoke about his childhood and what it was like growing up in Miami. And we also spoke about why he's not comfortable with the way the word leadership is being thrown around in the corporate world. This episode has many great takeaways on how to become a great leader. Do not miss out on this one. Alright, before we kick off with today's episode, if you can do me the small favor and subscribe to this channel, I'll highly appreciate it, and it'll help me bring you more and more high performance to this show. This is the High Performance Mindset, and today's guest is Shadi Al Abdalsalam. Enjoy this episode.
Shadli Al Abdulsalam, welcome to HPM.
Thank you, Hisham.
You're the CEO of Friendly Mobile,
Yes.
but I want to ask you, from your perspective, why is it important to be humble as a leader?
For me, being humble as a leader, first of all, it really comes down to empathy, right? I mean, and it's where we start, right? I mean, when I look at my career, I look at where I started. I started at the bottom. I was literally in a position where I had to scrap and get to the top, and I had to go through a lot of had to go through my own journey to get to the top. And within that journey, I encountered many different kinds of challenges, struggles. You get your wins, you get your losses, but you also learn along the way, right? And when I always looked at myself and said, if I would ever to get to the top or lead a position or lead a group of people, I always wanted to make sure that I had that feeling when I was also climbing to the top. The people that I'm leading are going through the same emotions. They're going through the same kind of thought process. And that always stayed with me, right? And I think it goes back to where when I was actually working in Canada, one of the things I started doing is when I started working was I started just taking notes, of how I was, my working environment, my peers, and really my managers. Okay, so I really had one manager that was not great, and the way it processes me is like I would never want to be like that if I was a manager. So I started taking notes and started observing more and more.
Can you tell me, what were his way of management that you didn't like?
Mr. Shi, and
okay,
yeah, and I think it was really where it was just the fact that she wanted to get things done, and it was what really hitting the targets, and not factoring in the fact that there was a reason why certain targets couldn't be met. It could be the targets were probably unachievable, or the kind of systems that we had were not working, and that happened quite often, and that fell on deaf ears. And I was like, okay, fine, we have our challenges, and for me, my thought was, as a manager, you should facilitate the environment for us to succeed, and that was not there. So for me, that was I took that into account. I was like, okay, fine. When I get to a position, I need to make sure one of the first things that I do is I create an environment where others are allowed to flourish and succeed, right? If I have a goal that I need to meet, then the environment or where we're working needs to have that kind of has to support it. So that was more or less it. It was not like she had out for us, but it was just the fact that she had some targets to achieve, and it was by any means necessary. So that's what I took into account. I was like, okay, fine. I always have to make sure that no matter the struggles, people have emotions and they go through their own challenges, and you need to make sure that you create an environment enough for them they can be supportive and they can actually thrive in that environment. So that was always that's something that stuck with me.
Two things. One, where did you get the whole idea of journaling from?
Yeah.
right? And two, why do you feel it's very important to stay, connected with the team?
So journaling for me started at a very young age. I was, ever since I was like 10 years old, I would just read. And so I'm an avid reader. I read like at least one book a month. And I've always kept that with me ever since I was a kid. So I would read. And while I was reading, I also had a very, very, very wild imagination.
Where do you think you picked up reading from?
So reading is, my father is an avid reader. He reads quite a lot. So he's like, I call him a bibliophile or a bookworm, right? So I picked it a lot from him. We had like a small library at home, and I would just, pick up on the books that I had there. Then I started to, okay, fine, like a lot of his books obviously were,
on another level.
On another level. So what I would do is like when I had enough money, I would actually go buy my own books. So I started reading John Grisham books, which is like, a lot of the Firm and all those, like it was like a lot of lawyer-based kind of, but it was, and also Tom Clancy. So it was a lot of kind of like, very kind of thriller kind of books. But then, so that basically sparked up my imagination. And I would just start, riffing. And I'm also like, I love like, sci-fi. So I used to just write a lot of stuff, right? It was a lot of, I probably looking back, it's a lot of gibberish and just, wouldn't make any sense. But it was just a lot of things that would come into my mind and would just write as a kid. My mother, funnily enough, she says she has some of those writings, so I actually need to go check it out and see. I try to avoid it, but I think it's something that I'll go get and try to, pass on to my kids and say, look, this is what I was doing when I was 10.
I think it would be good. I think it would be also good, So, but I think you've done enough practice right now to start put it all into one book.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I have to probably rewrite a lot of it. But yeah, so what I started doing was I would just take, so I just, just intuitively start writing any chance that I would get. Then when I moved to Canada and I lived there for a little bit, what happened was that, there was a lot of blogging that was happening. And I would just start writing blogs, just write, and it was like a lot of riffing between me and other people. But then I would just put my thoughts across. And then what I would do was, okay, fine. At one point of time, I was going through like a process where I was actually really kind of shaping who I was going to be. And I think for me, it's like an inflection point where just like a bulb hit off of me. So, okay, fine, you need to think in a different way.
You remember what stage in your life it was, or what age?
Yeah, it was when I was 24 years old. Okay. And it just... I was very much into, this the regular stuff of, I was like Sports Illustrated. I would read like The Vibe, like those magazines. Like these are like old magazines. I was very much into music and stuff like that. So I would get all those different magazines, and I was very much into just being like, teenager moving into adulthood. I was like working, studying at the same time. So I was just kind of living my life. And then I think when the process of me starting to work and just observing my surroundings, and I think it just a light bulb clicked off on me. And what I did was I just started reading different things. I started getting more into reading about politics, reading a lot of business books. I started really getting reading. So like I stopped reading all kinds of fictional stuff and started focusing on nonfiction. So I'm like things like in terms of social economics and those kind of books that I started reading, and just kind of sparked a different mindset in terms of, okay, what can I contribute differently into the way I think and how I move in this world. And I just recently had gotten married. So I was like, okay, fine. So, and then I started realizing, okay, there's a lot of responsibilities that come with it, and just how I was trying to picture my life going forward. So that's kind of where I think it started off for me.
Let's go back to your childhood.
Yeah.
So you born in Oman.
Yeah.
And then when you were 5, you moved to Miami.
Yeah.
Because your dad went there for scholarship, and he was in the Marine.
Yeah. He was a marine biologist.
Marine biologist.
Yeah, so he was with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries.
Okay.
And he got a scholarship to the University of Miami to continue studies in marine biology.
And You remember what it was like growing up in Miami? What did your week look like? Let's say 8 years old or 7 years old.
So I remember when I was like 5, right? So when I moved in there, but I do have a lot of memories, of just, so we lived in 2 compounds. We lived in a university compound, first of all, and then after we moved into a compound that was more fit for families. And in that compound, that's when I actually really got into my own as a child. So my memory is really hazy between 5 and 7, but like from 8 to like 9 and 10, that's when I really start remembering things. So my week would be is that, I go to school, come back. School was very different in the States. There was a lot of, and one thing I remember in the States was maybe just something that came on my mind is that they would really, and it's surprising for me when I tell people this, they say, oh, they don't, it's like, yeah, they would really take my religion into consideration. So if anything that was, not based on, anything to do with Islam, they would actually, and there was me and a few other kids that would take us aside, and they would actually teach us different things. So I remember that stayed with me for a little bit. It's like, okay, fine, well, like how you treat your person.
They're being considerate.
They're being very considerate and different, and, based on your religion, based on your culture, and all that stuff. And so come back home, then I was a part of an American football team. So I was like a position called wide receiver, and so I would play football, and then I was also part of a little league soccer team. And so I remember my life was very, very much into sports.
I know there's a link that comes with being a wide receiver, but just for the audience, what is the role of a wide receiver in American football?
Okay, so a wide receiver, usually when you're in formation, you'd actually see the person that actually is like always towards the end of that formation, the line that's called the scrimmage. And that's where when the quarterback, who actually is like he's a point guard, or he's the point man, they throw the ball and they actually look for where the receivers are. So you actually have your tackles, so the wide receiver is the one that really goes out, runs down the lane, catches the ball, and actually runs for the touchdown. So that was my position. So we at that time we weren't doing tackle football. We were doing something called touch football. So they would give us like a ribbon or a tag. And what they do is because we were too young, even though we were giving us a lot of protection, in order for you to tackle somebody, you'd have to pull the string. So it was that. Then the next stage was for me to actually get, because apparently I was doing well. But then that's when my parents felt it was a bit too challenging, and said, okay, fine, let's stick to soccer, because there's not a lot of tackling in it, right? So I played soccer too there, and it was very interesting. So my childhood was.
So let's say on a weekday. Yeah. What would you do after school?
So on a weekday, it was just. Really, we would travel. So if we're talking about on a weekend or just on a normal week. So a normal week would be home, do your normal homework, go back to school. So my parents were doing shifts. So my mom would go to school in the morning. No, it was the other way around. My father would go to school in the morning, and then my mom would go to school in the afternoon. Okay, and so it was always this shifts between us, and like there was a time where me and my brother and sister were actually alone for like an hour or so. So we were actually kind of like had to fend for ourselves within a 1 hour, 2 hour period before my parents came back home. But again, that was just the normal life. And then after you go out, you play. Come back in. The weekends usually we'd basically.
Like over here, of course, all families have a helper at home, or two, or God knows how many, right? But over there, it's not like that.
No,
so what was the dynamics like at home?
So the dynamics was like literally my mom had to do everything, right? So so she would come back from college. She used to go to Daytona College, so she's studying to be a computer programmer. So she would go to college, she would come back, she would have to take care of the whole house. And we actually had to start taking care of ourselves, right? So I think at a young age, when you're abroad and you don't really have, the good thing is that we had a lot of good neighbors. So we had, there was a good friend of mine, his name is Sean, he was from Hawaii. And him and his mom, like her name, Auntie Harrieta, she used to actually sometimes take care of us. And so the not University of Miami compound, but the other compound we called Kendall Cove. That's where we actually really formed kind of a society, because there were different groups of people over there, and we were taking care of each other.
And weekends, because I'm asking all this question. I really want to understand the dynamics with your parents also, because when you're abroad, it's different than parenting at home. So I wonder what it was like for your dad, what is it like for your mom, especially that she was also studying, them managing the whole parenthood. It's very interesting. Yeah,
so for me, and the thing is that I look at my life and I just sometimes go, how did they do it, right? It's because it was not easy. I mean, you're in college full-time, and you have to take care of 3 kids, okay? Like I was 5, my sister was 3 or 4, and my brother was like almost a year old. And it's like, and I just always look at that and I say, don't ever complain, because that dynamic to me is like, that's what, I always look at their resilience and their fortitude and the way they, just move to get things, because like for them it was like always about, okay, fine, how can we get through the day, right? And make it to the next day. And that to me, that resilience of always, don't complain about, falling down. Just get back up and move on again, right? So that was there, right?
Do you remember any of the sayings your dad used to tell you or your mom used to tell you?
My dad says like, he would give me the normal stuff like, money doesn't go on trees, it's like, don't like, don't, it's like, he would like give us always like, they used to say one thing. I'm not going to say it here because it's a bit okay. But he was like, it was almost coming to us like, listen, if you don't work hard enough, and my father was a big believer in hard work. I mean, he was one of those guys that when he would study, right? He's like, and I didn't get that from him, so I always wish I could get him, but I couldn't. But he's one of those guys that when he reads a page, he won't read it once. He would read it like 3 different times until he frames it or has it in his memory, and he moves on to the next page, and he can go on for hours. I mean, one of my uncles was telling me, your dad, when he was because he was born and raised in Tanzania, he's like, he was the first one in school and the last one to leave. Like he was known as the teacher's the teacher's pet or whatever, but he was the kid in school that would always study hard and everything. So for him everything was about being, you have to put 100% effort in everything you do. And my mom was much more of the nurturer, so she was the one that would, she wouldn't say much, but she does a lot, right? So, her effect is everywhere, right? And you really feel like that she was the backbone. My father was running around trying to get things, trying to basically create this life for us, but my mom was the one that was really one that affecting us in terms of, of our day-to-day. Right, so there is that you have that overall aspect, but you also have that day to day, which is very, very important. My mom was super at that. So for me, it's like there was not a lot of sayings from her end, but it was always where there were sayings I can't say. But anyways, but she was very impactful in our lives.
How would you describe your mom's work ethic?
She was a very determined person. So when she came back, she was actually one of the first software programmers in Oman Air. And when she was a banker. So both of them, when they traveled, so my father traveled with a scholarship, my mom traveled and they paid for it, so she had to pay for herself, and my father obviously paid, right? So so it was basically her own, and she when she was a banker, everybody was telling her, stay as a banker. It's like, no, I wanted to do computer programming. Nobody was doing computer. I mean, at that time, like in Oman, in the 70s, nobody was really thinking about computer programming, right? Especially if you're a woman. She was like, no, I wanted to get into computer. She just said like, this is going to be the future, and I want to be a part of it. Okay, so that also sparked interest in me. Okay, fine. And that I think I would say my father is more of the straight, narrow path, everything by the book. My mom is the one that is very spontaneous. She will just do things. It takes a challenge, and she's always, she will do things differently. She won't do things by the book. So that's the way. That's how she was. Like it was not like she was a hardest worker, but she just never did things in a narrow path. And I think that inspired me also a lot.
So after Miami, you moved to Egypt for a year,
Yeah.
and then you moved back to Oman.
Yeah.
Remember your experience in Egypt?
Yeah.
What was it like?
Okay, so my experience in Egypt was, it was very interesting. You know, so
How old were you when
I
you
was
moved there?
I was 9 when I moved to Egypt, and there was a reason we moved to Egypt. Well, we moved to Egypt is because we didn't speak a lot of Arabic. It was purposely done. My mom wanted us to integrate ourselves really well in America, right? So she's like, I don't want you to go over there and be left out, because so it was like very focused on you know, having good English. And so when we moved over there, I said, fine, I want you. So like it was like a pit stop for us. Stop there, like learn Arabic, and then afterwards we'll go back, because she said if we go back to Muscat, Oman, like, you know, people will probably speak to you in Swahili and English, or you know, whatever. And I was like, fine, I was a kid. Obviously we didn't know. So we moved to Egypt.
So the whole point is for you to pick up the Arabic
before moving back.
That's very strategic.
Yeah, that's very strategic, right? So I told you my mom was very different, and I remember she and my father was like, why? It's like, no, I want this, and this is also an experience for them. I was like, oh, okay.
And it's true, because if you move directly to Oman,
Yeah,
you will learn Arabic,
yeah,
but it won't be as fast, because you'll have options of speaking in English,
Yes.
a lot of options of speaking
Exactly.
in English. But if you go to Egypt, you're gonna
You have no
learn
options.
Arabic in
غصب عنك
غصب عنك in a week maybe. Okay.
yeah. But it was interesting for us, because we did have to go through that challenge of speaking different language. So we felt we were treated a little bit differently. But at the same time, one thing that that stuck with me there is that, you know, one thing is that everywhere you go, there is that one or two people that will always stay with you, no matter what your childhood, you know, you go through your teenage years, adulthood. And there was two people that actually was two guys. There was our taxi driver, who actually used to be our driver, so we hired him as a driver to drop us back to from school to home, and a friend of mine who was an Egyptian, who used to live on the penthouse. He used to live on the last floor, right?
Top floor,
and
yeah.
the top floor, and he would, for whatever particular reason, he was older than me by a little bit, and he understood. He didn't speak any English. And my Arabic was not good at all at that time. And but he took me around. He made sure that I was taken care of when I go out, like, you know, and like, you know, that nobody would bother me. And he just took care of me.
You took a role of a bigger brother.
For me. And that to me was, because obviously as a kid I didn't know, right, that he was doing that. But then when I reflect back on it, I was like, yeah, this guy actually took me around. He did it not out of you know. But he just did it out of, because his parents and my parents weren't like really friends or anything, right? But he just did it out of, okay, he saw me, he understood where I was from, and then he just took care of me. And my taxi driver was, he was super attentive. I mean, he was like very empathetic with anything that we go through, because he knew, and because one day I came back, I was being bullied. And I came back, I think I was maybe crying or something like that. And he really took it. He was like, to a point where I remember that he actually wanted to go out, and it's like, he really tried to step up for me, right? And those two moments, those two people and instances stuck with me. So my experience was very was different in Egypt. I had a very fun experience in the States. My experience in Egypt was a bit different, but at the same time it was reflective, and it was also eye-opening for me, introspective.
And then moving to Oman, what was it like?
So moving to Oman, my first couple of years was not great. Again, I had to go through that whole process of relearning how to live, right? I mean, it's like you're moving from, it's like, I mean, 3 different cultures, right? So when I came back to Oman, I had to, again, reposition myself in society. And so we went to school, and in the school, okay, I met friends, but I remember in the first years, I didn't really have a lot of friends. And I was, and that's where I became kind of an introvert. I started to, because, I felt like everybody was different around me. Nobody spoke my language, not in terms of only the language, but just in terms of my my mindset, right? We didn't flow. And it was a struggle for me up until so I came in grade 5, maybe around grade 7. That's when things started shifting for me. And what helped me a lot between those years was just my love for movies and just reading. So those are the things that really helped me a lot during those years. But grade 7, that's when things changed for me. I started making friends, and I started really developing into my own.
Why do you feel when you're in grade 7 you managed to? Did you find people that you actually get along with, or did you have to be less picky? Like you decided, you know what? It looks like I have to, probably bring down my standards or whatever, and I need to just start making friends. So how did that happen?
It was never about me, being picky. It was just about trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And I felt like, just the way I thought about things, I was not aligning my thoughts or vibing with certain, with people around me, right? It was just the different ways of looking at life, I guess. And what happened in grade 7 is that these guys are my friends till today. So we're like brothers for life. And what happened was it just, came in class, we just hit it off, and and when I hit it off with them, and when we started just having normal kids talk and all that stuff, then this thing started opening up for me in terms of how I viewed my surroundings. And obviously by that time I got used to different things of the way I speak Arabic. I was talking Egyptian Arabic, so that people were making fun of me a lot. So when I came there, I had to really pick up the Omani accent and all that stuff. So that also shaped, and because for me in my neighborhood, I was also kind of picked on a lot because of that. Right, so that's why I became a bit more introverted. So when I went to school and grade 7, I had those friends. Then I basically started to say, okay, fine.
So getting more comfortable.
I got more comfortable, right? Yeah. And I started coming out more around my shell, where I was more relaxed to engage and be myself. And that's where I started really getting into sports and all that kind of stuff and engaging back again.
And then when you were 13, that's when you won the award for best goalkeeper?
Yeah. So what happened is that this is private school, so we lost the team lost, but apparently I was very good in terms of and I didn't know it at that time. The point that they actually thought, because I was bigger for my age at that time, I was like, for whatever reason, I was taller than the other kids. They thought that I was a grade higher, which I wasn't. But I was able to block a lot of shots, and the way I was moving across the field. So they said, okay, wow, we're very good. So they gave me like a medal for best goalkeeper.
I mean, I don't find it surprising after having the background playing as a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's, exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
you can be as big as you want, but if you don't have the technique and you don't have the skills, then
exactly,
you won't be able to catch. And how do you catch the ball?
Exactly. And I remember they actually told me, we want you as a goalkeeper because you're big. I was tall and I was like slim and tall, so I was like, okay, so you could probably spot the balls more.
I mean, you have some really good goalkeepers who are short.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, let's say the Colombian goalkeeper.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he even catches it with his
exactly,
with his legs.
With legs. So people just have the ability to do all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I always tried to hide that goalkeeping came easy for me.
Oh, okay.
But I always tried to hide it.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I do well there, I'll stay there.
Yeah, really.
And I wanted to play. So. So yeah, but there's a lot about, I think, goalkeeping that the rest of the players don't know about.
Yeah, it's like you're many different things as a goalkeeper. So for me, one thing is that, and when I look at it, is that you're like protecting your house, right? And it's like you are the the last, or the last frontier in terms of anything going in, and it has that kind of mindset of like, even like in battles or whatever, you'd always have like, okay, the last frontier is where you have your really your stronghold. So when I think of it from that perspective also, and it's also you have to be very agile. I mean, you have to move. It's not like a position, and you have to have your eyes on the ball and the way. So there's a lot of movement and a lot of agility that comes with it. So I think that also plays a role, because now I can see the alignment with being a wide receiver, because it's the same thing. You have to look, you have to run, and you have to tackle. So there is a lot of similarities to it.
Timing, reading it, yes. So you can be at the right place at the right time.
Place at the right time. That's what people don't really know about. American football is super strategic, right? I mean, it's like a minute to 1 meter to 1 inch to 1 inch to slow, either right, left, or whatever. That's a tackle. Put you on the ground, can give you a concussion, couldn't get whatever, right? So you have to always be mindful, and it's a lot of gameplay, right, and a lot of strategies. It's a chess game, and it's I didn't know it at the age, but obviously when I started watching American football as I grew up, you really understood, okay, fine, this is actually a lot of strategy that comes with it. It's just not people bumping into each other. It's just a lot of strategy. It's the same thing for football. People see running around, but there's a lot of strategy that comes to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of mindset involved.
Yes.
And as we grow, we start seeing sports differently. I love studying fighters, boxers. Yeah. Before it was only boxers, and then I started also studying the MMA fighters, the UFC fighters. And you start seeing how much, a loss could impact an undefeated fighter, let's say. And then how do they go about it? And how much identity plays in how far a fighter goes.
Yes.
And it's the same case in any walk of life.
Yes.
Your identity can be the biggest barrier that's standing in front of you, or it can be the biggest supporter, regardless of the situation or the challenge. But if I believe I'm an athlete, then I'm meant to do this Ironman, or I'm meant to do this whatever, right? But if I think the other way around, then constantly every challenge I'll be like, yeah, you see, I was right. It's not meant for me.
Yeah.
On the contrary, even when things go wrong and you're doing things wrong, you're like, this is part of it. All right. And the year after that, you also, I'm mentioning these wins because I feel it helps building the identity.
Yeah.
You also won the marathon for the private schools.
Yes.
And how old were you?
So I was, I think I turned 14. And this is interesting because my mom and her friends would go walking. So they would fast walk, speed walk. And we used to live in Al Khwair. So we'd go by car all the way to Mustashfa Sultani. And from there, they would be doing long walks. And so my mom said, come with me, right? And I used to do two things at that time. I used to play tennis, and I used to go with them walking. So when I was walking, I would not walk. Mom, I'm not gonna walk, I gotta run. Okay, so I would run. And so I would run back and forth. No, just do it because...
Just killing time.
Just killing time, right? Because my mom said, you have to come with me. So it's like, okay. And then, so I would just run, come back, go back and forth. So when the marathon came, literally, I just registered my name. I was not expecting anything. And when we started, so the thing was, it was private schools all over Muscat, and our school, National Private School, was the actual the host for the event. And so we started off from there, and I don't know how far, I don't know how many kilometers again. I think it was around 10 kilometers, if I'm mistaken, something of that sort. It was not. It was something of that sort.
Yeah.
And so was just running, and I didn't know I was just running, and all of a sudden, a group of guys, seniors, they were next to me, they were driving, and they were like, "Shadli, أنت الأول, كمل." I was like, huh? I didn't know, and I looked behind me, and I was like, I was literally, I'm almost a mile away from everybody else. I was like, wow, and then I started just running, and I won, and so they looked at me, they're like, "You're a runner," and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, where did you get it from? It's like, I just go running with my mom. Yeah, that's it. So, but then I never picked it up again. But it was just one.
But I think it's also stamina from. I'm guessing you were playing football on a regular.
I was playing football, so طبعا نلعب كرة. في الحارة we would play football all the time.
Because I did the marathon when I was. Or private school when I was 15, and I did it when I was 16.
Yeah.
I did it when I was 15, and I think I came out 24th.
Yeah.
But the whole time, I was overpacing myself.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was like, and I finished, and I'm not tired.
Exactly.
You know? The next year comes, I register again. No preparation. My stamina is just from playing football. But this time, I was like, all right, I'll go with the first group.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I started running, and somebody, when the gun shot went off, the guy went, I was like, I'll go with the first one at the beginning. That's what I said. This guy was sprinting like full on. I was like, hell no, you go. Let's see how far you're going to get.
Yeah.
And maybe maximum 1K, if not less. He was just out. He was out.
Yeah.
He was completely like completely, not like walking slow. He was done.
Exactly.
So anyways, then I was like, just stay with the first 5.
Yeah.
All right, with the first 5, I'm like, all right. You know, the fourth one is slowing down a little bit, and I'm like, you know, increasing. Getting to the third, increase.
Yeah.
Getting to the second, I'm increasing. Getting to the first, I was catching up, and then I get a cramp.
Oh.
On my quad.
Yeah.
Like, no. And of course, the first went. I was pushing. Second one caught up.
Yeah.
So now I'm the third, and it was. I think we finished at Minister Sahwa.
Yeah.
And you have this entrance, and you have the pavement side, and you have like some bushes on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm limping, you know. There was some bus or car of girls that just were very supportive.
Yeah.
They were like, go. I was like, all right. And I'm about to now finish up. That's it. I can see the line.
Yeah.
And I see Yashjub.
Yeah.
Yashjub
Yeah,
Busaidi. And he's coming. I haven't seen him the whole race. Even at the beginning, I haven't seen him. And I was like, oh, no. So the bush was in the middle. I took the way over the pavement, and I limped faster than him, and I took the third place.
Okay.
But, and then I didn't do it. I never did any marathon after that. I was happy with the bronze medal. But I think if I had, let's say, did few runs before, and maybe if I knew a little bit about hydration, maybe I wouldn't have got the cramp. I don't know. Yeah, I think these things clearly sits with us.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read the book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell.
No.
Okay. So in the book, he has one point where he says, if you look at all the top like athletes or like Beethoven, Mozart, you know, when you look at their stories, or even Bill Gates, you look at their stories, you think that, again, it's like the whole iceberg thing, right? You just see the top successes, but you don't see all the work at the bottom. Apparently, the study that they had done at the time was these guys put in 10,000 hours of work, right? So like that 10,000 hours is like practice until they got to the goal of where, you know, of that, you know, the success of becoming who they were. And they patterned, they went through the whole process and looking at their life in terms of how they were basically doing their their craft, and be and behold is that the 10,000 hour was almost like a rule. And so I think it's not, obviously 10,000 hours is not conducive for everybody. The gist of it is that the work that you put in, right, one day, sooner or later down the road, and if you actually dedicate your work and your practice and ethics and everything, honing your craft, you will actually get to a stage where all of a sudden it becomes success, right? So I think the same thing you're probably doing with the podcast is you're building all those hours, and it's going to get to a point where it's just blows up, right? Because
Sure.
it all builds up to that, right? And so that's when I looked at when I ran that race, and the reason I got there is because I didn't know. I was just putting on the work, but it just happened at that time. But obviously, a lot of things had to happen. I didn't cramp up and all of that stuff because that could have all
That means you were more conditioned.
but again, it's like because of all the hours of the practice I was putting in that I didn't know that I was putting in for that particular moment that I was going to achieve.
And thinking out loud, like as you were talking, I was trying to look back, like, why did I pass all of them?
Yeah.
We're talking about all private schools.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yes,
few
exactly.
people. Yeah. Why? Who are these top three or top or like you, the first?
Yeah.
But this also tells me you were doing the runs with your mom. That's good. I wasn't doing that. But what I was doing is, me and Mike Nabhani, we used to go and play in a refinery.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones with 15 years old, 16 years old, and the rest were all in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
And that's the same place where Al-Habsi used to play. So for me, that's like a reference, like, oh, okay. So, because their standard was a lot of them, playing clubs.
Yeah.
And you have these two kids, 15 years old, 16, and we used to play like at least 2 hours straight, no breaks. And the pace was high. So even while you're playing football, are you chilling or do you always pushing yourself? It depends.
Yes.
And that's where, however you do your 1,000 hours,
Yes.
or 10,000 hours, it gets accumulated, and you see it on race day or game day.
100%. 100%. It's like the amount of effort that you put in. It's really it's like if you don't do things halfway, you have to sometimes go all the way through, and it's a process. And that's how I just treat my life in general. Like everything is a process, but if you keep on dedicating yourself to it, you'll get to that stage that you want to get to.
Okay, you'll have a lot of people saying, "Why you're sweating the small stuff?"
Yeah.
But is it really small stuff?
No, it's not. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's everything that for me, at least from my perspective, everything that I do in life, right, it has to have some kind of a purpose, right? So. Okay, fine. Yeah, there's some stuff like, okay, fine. You don't really have to do it, but it's like you're building. It's like it's a mindset that you have to have and building yourself. It's like like I'm trying to find a word for it. It's like you're really trying to dedicate something so you could actually, not necessarily just because you want to be successful, right? It's not my aim or my goal that I want to be successful, whatever. But it's just what you want to feel that you're fulfilling something.
You're making an impact.
And you're making an impact. Sometimes I feel like, can I tell people around me, it's like when you walk with purpose, with 10 toes on the ground, make a statement. Just don't half walk and then expect things to go your way. I don't believe that's how life is, right? You have to always do things with a little bit of purpose, with a push in order for you to get things through. So that's how I see it. Maybe some people think it's a bit too hard, but I think it's like that's how you actually move on in life. Not everyone will have the super, genes to get where they need to get to. We're all average people. So if you're average, what are you going to do to get yourself to the next stage?
Yeah, I always say, for in the beginner stage, talent counts.
Yes.
But once you get to a professional level, everybody's talented.
Exactly.
Everybody's talented. Once you get into a professional level, and even a beginner professional or an amateur professional, everybody's talented there.
Yes.
So talent is not something you mention. It's not a big deal. The thing that counts there becomes the effort you put in.
Yes.
And when it comes to effort, it's not just doing the same thing over and over again, but always constantly pushing yourself for the improvement. And that could be very exhausting.
Yes.
But that's where the outliers, become outliers.
Exactly. That's where you can find what kind of mindset do you have, right? So it's actually watching a clip right now. So you were talking about UFC. Or MMA. I don't know if you know Israel Adesanya. Okay, or when he fought Alex Pereira. Okay, and so he's like, what clicked in his mind when So when he was like the third fight, right? It's like what happened because he was against the cage, and Alex was just Patan was just going all over on him, right? He's like something. He's like he said I went to another place. Right, and I think he's like he could have given up. It's like, "Khalas, I'm done. He's going to beat me for the third time." Right, but he just that mindset. Something just happened there, and I think that is a part of your subconscious. Is again with the work that you put in, and it because I think when you do stuff, it's not only physical, right? It's your mindset that you're also building up. You're building muscle for your mind, and I think that is very important. And that resilience factor, right? Again, I say, you just pointed out beautifully. Well, everybody could be talented, but then what gets you to the next level? What gets you to be the next Michael Jordan, the next LeBron James, or the next, that's where the mindset shift comes in. Again, that also has to be built. So has to be worked, has to be practiced. So yeah, I think
I like the way you said it.
Yeah.
That mindset has to be built.
Yeah.
You don't just get it.
No, it's not you just wake up and it's like I think it's constant and it has to be a part of your daily life. It could be, and you don't take it as it's exhausting or whatever. No, it's like, and if you build it as a common factor in your life, it becomes just a process that you have to go through every day, and it becomes the norm.
And do you feel like doing things physically challenging enhances your mindset?
Oh, for sure. Right. I mean, so I think it's like, it depends on, for me, obviously it depends. So for me, when, give an example, I don't know if I mentioned I was way, way overweight before. So.
You mentioned to me like you went through a health scare.
Yeah, I went, I had like, so it was not really a health scare, really that bad, but it was like I had an MCL tear. When I went to the doctor, so the doctor looked at me and told me very straightforward. It's like, I was what, 35, 34. I just let myself go. I used to go to the gym and I would just pump weights and stuff like that. Not really. I was just pumping, but it was just adding muscle on fat, right? And I was just getting bigger and bigger. My food was my eating habits were all over the place. So I got close to almost 120 kgs. Sure. And what happened is that he just looked at me. He's like, "Listen, even if we do anything for your knees, right? You're in not a good condition. You're in bad shape, and you need to change your lifestyle. So even if we do this operation, you're going to have to change your lifestyle." So what I told him is like, okay, I'm not going to do the operation now. I'm going to change. So what I did was first things first, okay, fine, admit that you have a problem. So I really looked at myself in the mirror, you have a problem. And then what I did was I went to Dr. Nutrition. I sat down, I said, listen, they gave me a program. I signed up to the program. I took pictures of myself. I said, okay, fine, start.
First, how did you get to the 120 kg? And then tell us, how did you lose it?
So when I came back from Canada, in 2004. And the minute I came back from Canada 2004, that's when I first started working. Started working in Notice immediately, December 11th, 2004. So I came back in October, started in December. And it was just a whirlwind for me. I remember for that 1 year, especially when we launched in March, over that full year, I was probably working almost 7 days a week. I was working 16 hours a day. So I was not exercising, was just building, just eating.
What was your mindset at that point?
mindset was just I just wanted to I wanted to succeed. I wanted to just it was like I was like proving something to myself. Okay, it's like now, and I felt like this was an opportunity for me. One thing is that coming back from Canada, working there, and I came back and said, okay, fine, I have that mindset where I could now develop and just actually the things that I learned there, I honed there, I can actually apply it here. So first things first, I remember when we would they would sit us because we were going through a full training session, right? I never sat at the back. In school, I always used to be the last person in the back. Yeah, first person in front. And I just stayed there, right? And I would absorb everything. When everybody was going back, so we were in a place called Cybertech, where we took so I was a sales representative. So the Notice building was in Adeba, where Almira hypermarket is now.
Yes.
And we go to a place called Ngala. So there's a Cybertech, and that's where they do the sales training.
Okay.
When we were done there, I would actually go to the Notice building, and I would actually go over there and look for work. I would go to the guys and say, okay, fine, what do you need help with? And I would sit down, okay, fine, we need help to basically build these processes or type. We need help to test the systems. I would sit down there. So I just kept on doing that over and over again. So that helped me a lot because within that year, I got promoted twice. I went to assistant shop manager, then to the full shop manager. And then afterwards, a year and a half after that, I moved into the B2B team. I became a project manager. Then I started moving for there, right? So, but it was, by doing that, I just had to sacrifice myself, right? I just stopped working out. I just was eating anything in sight, fizzy drinks, burgers, and all kinds of stuff, right? And I just gained weight, and I just didn't see myself gaining weight. It's like funny.
Gradually.
Yeah, it's a gradual, it's incremental until you get to a stage where you build up such habits, and it's habit building, right? So you build up such habits that to a point you go like, okay, fine, and I couldn't see myself. That's the thing is that I just did not see myself as being that big. And when you go, what you do is you go buy clothes that fit you. So when you buy clothes that fit you, again, fine, it fits and fine. And it just kept on over and over again until I got to that position where I was like, and the thing is that it's not like saying nobody was telling me that I was gaining weight, but it was like, I was just known as Shadi the big guy. I was like, okay, so, and I didn't see much of that. But when that happened, and when I actually looked at myself, and I was like, okay, you got to change, man. Something is off here. Something is not right. And that's when but one thing also happened is that that time I was working in Omantel, and I was in a senior manager position. So it afforded me a little bit of time to say, okay, fine, let me just try to focus on myself. So I actually had to kind of sacrifice my work a little bit to focus on myself. So I had to really refocus my mindset. And I just started working out like crazy. I just started going into the diet. I went to the diet like not 100%, like 200%. And I just, to a point, at one point of time, which is not healthy at all, I would go for weeks just having maybe 500 calories per day. And actually, I was burning close to 1,000 to 1,500 calories per day because I would be doing two kind of workouts. I would be doing 2 a days. So I'd be doing a morning workout for an hour and a half and be doing a night workout for an hour. To a point where when I would come back from Dubai, if I come back by car at 9 o'clock at night, I'd go up because I knew that I'd go up and start working out. Listen, it was an obsession. I would weigh myself maybe 3-4 times a day just to see, okay, fine, because I was measuring the grams that I was dropping on a daily basis. So in a span of 6 months, I lost 33 kgs, then it became, okay, fine, how are you going to maintain this, right? So first of all, I got really, really slim, and I felt like I got really weak, so I had to gain a little bit weight back. And so I started going back to the gym, normal lifestyle, but then afterwards it became such a habit that I couldn't live like a normal life anymore, because everything was based on, okay, fine, I don't want to get to that stage yet. I even had some of my old clothes there just to always remind me, okay, listen, don't get to that stage again. And I stayed like that for almost like about 7-8 years, and then afterwards I felt like it started impacting my not social life, but it just because when you'd go out, I wouldn't eat like people, I wouldn't hang out with people properly, right? So then I said, okay, fine, just start relaxing, and obviously weight creep comes back in again, but then you manage it and you balance it, right? So. But yeah, so for me, that's where I always go, like, you sometimes go hard on the physical to change that mindset, right? So I had to really, really go deep hard in order for me to change my mindset.
But thought didn't come to mind, like, maybe, hey, we as a family is just genetic. That's why I'm big.
Yeah, so, belly is running my family. But it's like when I look at all of them, they say all of you guys used to be slim before. And for me, again, we came to a point of it's about health, being healthy. It's not about being anything else. It's like, what am I doing to my body by eating? So I started actually studying. Okay, what is the effect of when you eat these carbs at this certain time? How does it impact your glucose, right? Because you spike up your insulin, your glucose. So, okay, fine. So I started doing the keto diet so I can get to ketosis stage, intermittent fasting, just to started to mix it up. But for me, I came to a point where I was like, okay, fine, I want to be healthy. It's not about losing the weight anymore or just I want to be fit and I want to be healthy. And the thing is that one thing I also learned is sometimes overworking also has an impact, a negative impact.
Overworking
out. So I overworked out, I was over dieting to a point where I did have, I actually, by some parts of my bones and my joints got weaker. Okay, so then I had to slow down on my workouts. It's okay, fine. Like, it came to a point that don't overwork. You have to pace yourself. You have to, and that's where for me the mindset of pacing also came through, but it came at a later stage. But yeah, it's mindsets, and I think it's like sometimes you have to go hard. Maybe not on everything, but sometimes you have to go hard if you really want to change a mindset, because change is the hardest thing that we go through, and it's a mindset that you have to shift.
And right now, like, how would you? What is your daily routine?
So my daily routine is I get up 5 o'clock, prayers, and I try to go to the gym at least 3 times a week. So, and I do it in the morning, is because I won't be able to do it in the evening when I come back. I just get, but that's where, before it would have been different. Before I would have chucked nab or gym and then I'll go back home and stuff like that. But now I tend to not do that because I want to hang out more with the family. And also the strenuous of work. Sometimes by the time I get back, mafini barad. So yes. I just just get it out of the way in the morning. I would usually don't have any breakfast, nothing. My first meal would be like around 1 o'clock or 2. So
from, let's say, what time you finish your workout? 7?
So I finish my workout at around, so if I go into the gym at around 6, I would finish my workout around 7. So my workout is I'm very precise with my workout. I do like 10-15 minutes of cardio just to get my blood rolling, and then after I do 20 minutes of everything. So 20 minutes gym. If I do maybe 10 to 15 minutes of functional, then maybe I'll do something like maybe a quick cardio, like an air bike, and that's it. So it's anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour.
And then you don't eat anything till
then I don't eat anything until lunch.
After the workout, you don't feel your energy, like you need anything?
I feel actually boost in energy.
Okay, yes, there is
because
that
there's
part.
that adrenaline rush, right? And because when I get into work, there's a lot of things happening, and coffee is my savior.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I think it's just it's because I've gotten so used to it. Sometimes I do 24-hour fasts, and it just. So I've gotten so used to the fact that, okay, fine, I can go through long periods of time of just not eating, and I'm fine with that, and then even if I eat, like now, just today before I came in, like my first meal was at 2:30, and I'm fine with that, and I can go on for the next day.
Do you feel it helps you with having mental clarity?
Yes, and it makes me. I feel like when I eat a lot or just eat just in general, you get lethargic, and it also depends on what you eat, right? Because whatever you eat spikes up your insulin, your glucose, and then after all of a sudden you tend to get a bit more, not to say lazy, but just more relaxed, right? For me, when at work, especially during the first hours of the day, I just need to basically be sharp.
And you're trying to get everything out the way.
Try to get everything out of the way first.
The first window.
First, that first few hours, I think it's super important just to get, because that's when your thought process is also there, and that's when there's a lot of that firefighting happens at that time, and you need to have your mind sharp to make decisions and just get things moving and get things flowing. So I think that part of the day also to me is like try to maintain just to have be a bit light on my feet.
I stumbled on this. Like people can call it, maybe the others can call it the magic hour.
Yeah.
Or, but the Prophet ﷺ said, like there's barakah after Fajr.
Yes.
And I noticed it during COVID. I used to do the movie takeaways at that time. Yeah. So I need to be extremely creative, and write down about the movie or whatever. And I tried it, working in different hours. But the most productive would be right after Fajr. And then again, if let's say during COVID, if I would have a power nap in the afternoon. As soon as you wake up again, you have a nice window of you're going to get the best version of your IQ.
Yes.
And that's all you want.
Yeah.
That's all you want. That's the most you can do, at least for yourself.
Exactly. I think for me, it's we live in such a space where you think that you have all the time in the world, but sometimes you just don't have all the time in the world. And you have like this pockets of time during the day that you really can get your stuff done, right? I mean, that where you can get what you want to get done. It's like, for yourself. I treasure those moments. Like I take them like, بالنسبة لي مثل الدين يعني. Like it's my workout hour. It's like when like it's my reading hour, or like if I want to watch like a, series, Netflix, whatever, I really block that time for myself because, you have to, it's again, because the day, you don't really own the day. Everybody has a little bit of piece of you. So there's certain times in the day where it's owned for you, and that's where you get that self-reflection. So for me, I watch a lot of series, I watch a lot of movies, because that also inspires me a lot in terms of, because, the people that write the shows or write the movies, or yourself, the way you do it, you're an introspective person, and you must have some kind of philosophy or some kind of reflection. And for me, I go like, okay, fine. Because, art imitates life. So I see that, I go like, okay, and that's why for me, a lot of my, I could say some of my upbringing was done by movies, to be honest. Like, I used to look a lot of movies like the Rockies and all that stuff, and that helped me a lot in my life to think of things differently in terms of motivation and stuff like that. So I really think that it's it's a key thing also when you in the days, in pockets in the day, you have to have it for yourself. Be selfish.
You need to know where you draw your inspirations from.
Exactly.
And aspirations from. And hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
If it brings good results out of it. There's something that I took notes, but I didn't proceed further with it. Not as I disagree, but I was like, I need to get back to this. And it was, I had the project movie takeaways. I used to bring, basically pick movies, extract the personal development takeaways, right? One of the movies was The Fight Club. So while researching The Fight Club, you get to know about the alter ego, right? And you wonder, you think alter ego is just a funny thing, or is a crazy thing.
Yeah.
But all fighters have an alter ego.
Yeah.
Like, so you'll hear Iron Mike.
Yeah.
You know, Iron Mike is different from
the real Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's someone else.
Yes.
And you have it with so many other fighters. From my research, because if you see the character of I forgot what's his name in Fight Club. Basically, Brad Pitt.
So you have Brad Pitt and Edward Norton.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and Brad Pitt is the alter ego.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll be like, this guy is completely different.
Exactly.
Right? And my takeaway from this is exclusive. The benefit of having an alter ego is you don't get to deal with your personal mental barriers. You've accumulated mental barriers. You know, like a kid. A kid, you tell him anything. Tell him, look, if you jump right now, you're going to float and you're going to fly.
Yeah.
He'll do it. He doesn't know, right? But you learned how things do not work out.
Yeah.
So even now, sometimes when opportunities present itself where it could work out, you know so many ways of how it wouldn't work out.
Exactly.
And then you become your own barrier. But when you have an alter ego, you can start imagining how would that person act in this situation. Forget about how Hisham would act.
Yeah.
Forget about how Shadli would act. How would that person in this situation act? And you embodying that personality or that character is easier than you sitting and convincing yourself about why this is going to work out or whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of fighters, they just switch into the alter ego. And there's a whole science of the switching process. You're going to do some things and then you're going to anchor those things to trigger, you know, that other side or that character.
Yeah.
So it's a whole
No,
it's a whole world on its own.
But when you say it that way, right? I mean, I think of myself when I go to work. I'm a different person at work when I'm at home, right? When I'm at home, I'm this father, I'm a husband. Okay, make sure you get this and make sure you get that, and you're not the same person when you are at work, right? When you're at work, you have to kind of evolve into something else. It's because you're dealing with people that are actually there's transactional value between you two, right? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense in terms of looking at yourself also as an alter ego. Yeah.
Even in the book of Brandon Barshad, High Performance Habits, from his research, all the Olympians, top CEOs, one thing was a high performing habit for them was that they were very intentional. So they don't just walk into their homes. They would stop, stay a minute in the car, charge up the other character, and then go inside the house intentionally. Yeah. And I used to also see this when I go to work. If let's say there is a personality that I completely dislike, for maybe they have a rude way of dealing with you. Yeah. When there's the high performance planner, and you get to journal, and you get to decide what energy are you going to bring when you go to the office. Yeah. Otherwise, you can just go there and be reactive. Yes. But if you go there, and I'm not saying going there expecting the worst, but when anything comes, you don't get triggered, because it doesn't take you off guard. Yes. Yeah. You expected it, be like, yeah, this person is nothing new. Yeah. This is just the way he is. I'm not saying I'm gonna be all jumpy and happy about it, but I'll know how to deal with it in a more controlled manner. So yeah, going back to what you said, different parts of your day requires a different side of you. Yes. And you have to be very intentional about it. Yes. And you feel it makes a difference when you just enter office without being intentional, or just enter home without being intentional, or when you're being intentional, or does it happen, or most of the time it just happens subconsciously?
So you know, like I think for more with me right now is because of the subconscious habits that I built. So it becomes more, so I'm much more purposeful or intentional in terms of my approach when I get into work. Is it's like, and I have to prepare my mindset. So when you just said that, you know, staying in the car thinking, so me before going to the office, I actually, okay, fine, I have to know all my data, all my information, you know, and then I set my mind to, okay, how am I going to approach work that day, right? Previously, when I remember, and this is actually I learned it when it just, you know, happened, you know, within my life. It's like where when I was working in my one of the companies I was working for, I never went to work that way. I would just go to work, happy-go-lucky, and as the day comes along, oh, you know, you're just going to get, you know, you just do the job, and you try to work through the day, right? And I felt like I always was one step behind. I never felt like I was progressing or on top of anything. I felt like, you know, like even like my performance review came and said like a lot of effort but no results, you know? And I was like, damn. I was like, okay, that's not good at all, right? And then I remember that was my second year. Then my third year was like, I gotta change this, man. So what I did was I changed the way I came into work. So
what did you do different?
I just started preparing myself better, right? So I would make sure that I would, before going into work, that I would either be the first person to work. So I would make sure that, because it's like, I think sometimes when you're the first person there, you have the lay of the land, right? You know, okay, fine. Like now you people coming into your space, and now you have control of, okay, how you can manage, you know, the flow of things. So for me, I felt like when I would come in and I'm just coming in and, you know, I have to come into the middle of things, I just don't have control. And that's when things were taken off guard, right? And I couldn't, you know, even if, say, I was the boss, I would not be able to manage the flow of the energy that's there. So for me, it's like, okay, fine, you have to be in a position where you're actually, you know, setting that energy or setting the flow. So for me, what I would do is, and I had like, you know, like it was a challenging environment that I kind of worked in. So I would say, okay, fine, I have to prepare myself and prepare my mind for it. So I called it bulletproof Shadli. I would say, okay, you bulletproof yourself. So, because if anything comes your way, because you know, obviously within the day you're going to have things not go right, you know, projects not being met, deadlines not being met. So you'd get the bullet. Okay, so how do you react when you get the bullet? So something happened once at work, and that's when I knew I had shifted. We were supposed to be, we were presenting and in front of our executive committee, and it was not me that was supposed to present this presentation, right? And when we were presenting this, the CEO at the time was quite unhappy with the results, right? So when I was presenting it, it was not my presentation that I had to present on behalf of my colleague. I really got blasted for it, right? And it was not common for this CEO to do that. So when he blasted, and I was standing when I was giving the presentation, it blasted to the point where like my line managers, my GM, and the others, they were like, no, it's not him, and you know they're trying to concentrate because it was really heated. And I just look back at myself. I was completely calm. I had no reaction on my face. I was like, fine. I said, took note. Inshallah, we'll come back to you, and we'll get this out. Even though it was not my project. Then done. Then we stepped out. My line manager came to me, looked at me, said, Shadli, are you okay? Are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And he looked at me, he's like, so it's either I laugh or I cry. I have to make a choice, right? So it's my mindset. I have to be I put myself in a space where I'm not going to be bothered by that, because I came with that intention saying, I know these things are going to happen. I just have to make sure that I am, you know, within my own space, that I can, you know, take those bullets. So I just called it bulletproof. And I just used that as my mantra. And that's when I knew, wow, okay, fine. I had changed the way I basically look at life. So when I left that organization, I just became a different person. I did things very differently. I approached things very differently. I was very passionate about the things that I wanted to get done, but I knew that everywhere I go, that I always have to have the upper front in terms of the information that I have, or the knowledge that I have, or the experience that I have to get what I wanted to get through, right? So for me, it just starts by preparing yourself.
You just need to prepare better.
Make sure you're in the position where you're even if you're going to be challenged, okay, fine, you're challenged and you may not know the answer to that question or whatever it is, right? But you're not going to be like, taken off guard. Because you've prepared your mind on terms of how do I answer that if I don't have an answer to that, right? So there is a way to answer something even if you don't have an answer to it. And you have to prep your mind, but you have to have that mindset when you're going over there. And
but you need to know enough.
And you need to know enough, for sure. You need to be like a subject matter, not an expert, but you need to have a good, sound understanding of the subject matter.
Absolutely. All right, let's go back to leadership.
Yeah.
Is it possible to be results driven yet practice kindness and empathy?
So it is that is like a $1 million question. I mean, and you get so many different kind of answers here, right? So for me, I think it's that we are in a results driven world right now. I mean, it's like every organization or anything that we do has to basically be based on results, right? But for me, it's the approach of getting those results, right? And how you do it. So I look at it from a fact of that when I look at people around me, right? Again, I go back to how do I want to be treated, okay? And how do I want to be viewed, okay? And do I want to feel viable as a human being, right? As a person that's producing, right? A lot of what I found about myself and other people around me is that they just want to be heard, or they just want to be not inspired. People don't necessarily need to be inspired, but they just want to feel like they're being seen and heard, or they're able to contribute and feel good about themselves. There's a quote, I don't know if you know her, Maya Angelou. There's a famous quote that she has is that people don't remember what you said to them. They don't remember what you did to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right? So for me, I think that basically just drives my mind. So, okay, fine, like people want to be felt and heard, right? And I feel, I always have, even if that person doesn't come with the best skill set or whatever, but if they feel that they are in a position where they can contribute and be viable, right? I think you get to the results that you want to get to, right? But you also have to instill that purpose in them. So it's like, okay, fine, but how can I make sure I balance the two? I just don't want to be this person all of a sudden start banging, give me results and stuff like that. I said, no, that's not a part of who I am. So I was like, let me try to see if I can balance the two. And what I just did was make sure that, that listen, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be rough. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to change our mindset. We're going to have to become high performance. We actually coined the term high performance culture. And that was a part of our ethos. So that became a part of our mission objectives for the year, to convert and become a high performance culture. So what we were doing was I would literally go in and sit down with them. Okay, what are your concerns? How can we get things done? And I would put them in a position where it was done to me before, where they throw you in the lion's den. Okay, get the job done. And because what you're doing at the same time is you're not what's the word called, pacify, or you're just being passive with them. No, you're telling them that you are a person that your effort is going to get us to that results. So by you being viable, you get us there. And for them to understand that they're viable, they go to the next level in terms of wanting to deliver for you. And because of the empathy that you have with them, right, in terms of how you engage them, you just ask about them. When when they have a rough day, well, what's going on? Don't say, what's wrong. Just say, oh, are you okay? Those kind of things, right? When they finish a project, thank you, and make sure you shake their hands and make sure you have a talk with them. When they're in the break room, go sit down with them and engage with them. I think those are the kind of things that people feel. So that's a kindness for me. That's where I feel that you can be kind, okay, and at the same time you can get the results through that avenue of being kind, but at the same time showing that there is a purpose behind this. So that's the way I look at things.
All right. So I was thinking, there's a very common, I think, situations we go through at work. Yeah. You'd have, let's say, one employee is very good at what they do, but worse attitude. So many of those, right? And everything's in spectrums.
Yeah.
But to understand things sometimes is good to put extremes
Yeah.
just to make the point clear.
Yeah.
You have another employee that very nice attitude, but doesn't get much work done, and probably talking to the other colleagues most of the time.
Yeah.
The third one, performance is okay, but good attitude. How do you deal with the three to enhance their performance?
I think let me start off with the one that is just average employee. They just perform on a regular basis on average, right?
Yeah, and their attitude is also it's good.
Okay. One thing that I have something called, well, in my mind at least it's called the 20-60-20 rule. So you always have your 20%. Okay, then that's a spectrum, right? The 20% is your high performers. These guys, you don't need to say anything to them. They know who they are, and they want to succeed. These guys are the ones that want to move up the upper echelons of society, work, or whatever. You have the other 20%. Those are the laggards. They're just,
So almost there's no way to make them happy.
no way to make them happy. These are the ones that are always going to be the ones that are just
Dragging
dragging, or they're just there for the sake of being there. Then you have your 60% in the middle, which is that bell curve. Those are the guys that are kind of content, and you have a spectrum within that 60%, right? So you have the latter part of that 60 that actually can potentially move to the 20%, and you have the others that can fall in there, right? So, but you have a lot of them that are very content and just fine with just life and just your average kind of workers. I'll come and just punch in and just do the normal work and not really shy and just do my work, make sure I get paid. So when I think of those kind of three scenarios, I think of it from that perspective, right? And I go like, okay, where would I place each of those guys? Where would I place them in that spectrum?
Nice.
So I look at the third person, I say, okay, fine, I would probably place them in the 60%, right? But where would I place that person in the 60%? These are the guys where I can say, listen, he's on that final tier of that 20%. And if I worked on him a little bit more potential, I could get him to that 20% potential, right? So how would I do that? So it's okay, fine. Is it they're just lacking motivation? Are they lacking certain? They feel, because sometimes people put a front, right? When they're happy-go-lucky coming in, they just feel that they don't have enough skill set just to move to the next stage. They doubt themselves. A lot of people walk around with imposter syndrome. They just feel like they're just there, but they're really not supposed to be there. So for me, I'm really trying to find, okay, where is that person positioned? And then after, I would say, okay, the way I would deal with them is that you sit down, okay, fine. You're average, you're doing okay, what is your goal? And I always start off with, okay, fine, do you have a goal? And why I say this is because I actually had an experience with somebody like this a few years ago. A guy was doing his job, very nice guy, but you felt like there was like something lacking. He was not able to go to that next stage. He's like, you feel like you couldn't get anything out of him. And I sat down with him, I took him for coffee. I said, what is your plan? I mean, you're a young guy, you're 32 years old. You must have some kind of plan. You must have, so I talked to them at a very, very personal level. Because I feel like those people they just lack, they feel they're not viable. So for me, I say, okay, fine, and I show them, say, like, listen, what are you good at? What is your major? Then this guy came to find out he was actually he was doing something in events in marketing within the department, but he is actually a software programmer. I was like, dude, you're not in the right position. That's maybe why you're not 100% there. So what I did was I worked with him throughout the year to reposition him. And now the guy is thriving, right? So I said, for me, so again, just go back to sitting down, understanding what is their drive, what is their motivation, so he was a round square in a square peg. He was just in the wrong position, right? And if I go to the second person, what was the second person again?
The second person was someone who very great attitude.
Yeah.
But most of the time they'll just be talking to the other people and not getting
anything done,
getting work done.
My experience with people like that, they're just happy to be there. Those would be in my 60%, those would really be the people that I would categorize as, okay, the final 20%. I don't know if you know something called the Peter Principle. The Peter Principle is that you have people that, when they are promoted to the level of incompetence. So you person who is, say, is a superstar salesperson, but then what you do is when they move up into that manager position, okay, they actually completely flounder. They don't, because they don't have the skill set to be a manager. They're a great salesperson, but they're not a great people manager, right? So they completely mess up, and they become the talkers. So what you end up doing with those positions is that you actually say, kind of like, make sure that they don't do a lot of damage, okay? And it's okay, fine. But you need to monitor them and because I do the same thing. Sit down, talk with them, try to understand what is your motivation. How can I basically, give you that extra drive and everything else. You'd feel maybe sometimes you would actually, when you do give them that extra work, okay, they would go that extra mile to get that thing done. So those are the people that the way I would deal with them is make sure they're always doing something. I would just make sure that they're always doing something. There is, like, they have some work in front of them. Because at the end of the day, it's like when they feel, at least they can always say, okay, I was productive, right? Wasn't just there doing something. But I feel like those are the kind that they won't necessarily try to move, even if you've given them the opportunity, but you just make sure that they're always tasked and they're doing something. With regards to the person, the first one, in terms of, bad attitude, but great deliver. And honestly, that's always a situation. And I've dealt with so many people like that. My whole thing is that when I manage an organization, I'm going to make sure that I don't have any negative people around me, the negative energy, because what happens is that even if that person delivers fantastic results, what ends up happening is that the results will be really only focused on him and that one person.
Not as
the whole organization won't move forward.
Yeah.
It doesn't because you could have a great year with that person, fantastic, but suddenly as the years go along, because the energy's been dragged, it's just going to become worse and worse, because what happens is it becomes like a cancer. Everything starts affecting around you. So sometimes, as a leader, you have to make a hard decision on how you change. So I would have, for me, with that person, really have a heart-to-heart with them. This is, we just do the sandwich effect. You're great. You fantastic results, but honestly, it's I'll give you the meat in the middle. You have a really lousy attitude, and it's affecting the entire organization. We can't continue this way. And I give him again give you the other side of the bun, saying, now, in order for you to, I'll give you the solution. You need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 to improve, to get and make sure that you're part of the team. And if not, then we'll have to have different conversations on how we move forward, right? Because for me, it's always when we go to work. I mean, we are like, even though I know it's a buzzword, people, family, but it's because you are hanging out with these people 10 hours in a day, right? And you need everybody effectively to get to the end goal. So in order for you to get to that end goal, you want to make sure everybody is in that same energy space. And if you have that one person, even though they're fantastic and they're draining, I mean, you look at sports. If you have a fantastic player who's amazing, okay, but has a really bad attitude, and you put him into in a team, the team doesn't do well.
They kill the momentum.
The guy can get his numbers up. He will fantastic. He will I don't know, whatever, right? He'll beat up all all the records. But at the end of the day, the team is not successful.
Yeah, and you see it, for instance, if there's a team losing, or maybe, the first leg they lost, and now the second leg they need to push harder to win. If there's, let's say, one player that's constantly whining and complaining, and it kills the momentum and the energy of the rest of the team.
100%.
Where if there's a team that they're all solid and they're constantly pushing forward with a positive energy, then it's just a matter of time before they take advantage of a mistake maybe and score. But definitely having that one player who's constantly complaining or whining, you can see that energy pulls the rest back.
Have you seen the movie Moneyball?
I've seen it a long time ago.
That's the concept
Okay.
behind it. So the whole idea was a Brad Pitt movie,
Yes.
right? It was actually a true story. It was a baseball team. They had star player who was a lousy attitude, only cared about his own numbers, and the whole team was just messing up. So I said, okay, fine, we're going to change up the whole system. They got a data analyst. They did so okay, fine, get everybody who can. We're going to create a culture and make sure that we get people that will fit that position. Okay, doesn't have to be a star player, but it has to be a star in that role, right? And they ended up winning games, and they actually started using that model for everything else. So basketball teams use it, soccer teams use it, everybody uses it right now because of, okay, fine, yes, we don't have to build a team of superstars. You still have to build a team of good players that will actually get you to the end goal.
I believe even Klopp
Yeah.
executed that very well with Liverpool.
Yes.
I mean, like Liverpool was doing bad for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then when Klopp came without stars.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, so I watch a lot of NBA, and now it's a playoff season. So there's a team called Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's a team of just regular guys, and they are.
Shout out to Oklahoma. My older brother grew up there.
Yeah, go there. Oh, mashallah. Yeah, it's, I think if he's there right now, or
No, he's in Houston.
Yeah, okay, but he I'm sure if he's there, if he's an NBA fan, he's following it up, and because that team is just killing it, and it's just there's only one superstar, but they got everybody else was homegrown, and they got that guy, and he fit into the culture beautifully, and now they're thriving. Right, they're like the best team in the NBA. They've got the best record. They're doing fantastic on the playoffs, and again, it's like you have to choose. Like for me, if you would ask me those three people, who would you keep? Right, I would say, and if I had to choose one to take out, I would take out the first guy, even if the other person that I have is not delivering results. Right, they're just hanging out. But I know if I gave that person to do something, they would actually go ahead and do it. Right, because they're very instruction-based kind of a person. Like they'll get that particular job done. The other person I know, I can motivate them. I can swing them. I can get them to elevate themselves. Third one, if they have a bad attitude, and if it's a bad attitude that's a part of their character, it becomes very difficult, right? So unless what happens is that he's forced based on the culture that's thrust upon him, right? And he understands, or she understands that, no, if I don't change, then I'll be in
They have
jeopardy.
to want it.
They'll have to say, okay, fine. In order for me to survive in this organization, I'll have to change my attitude. Some people, for them, surprisingly, even though it costs the jobs or whatever, they won't be able to change. It's very difficult.
And I believe they don't change is because they don't see
anything.
They have
wrong
a problem.
with it. Yeah. They feel like it's not me, it's you, right? And you have others that look down on people, right? And those are the ones they're holier than thou. Listen, none of us are smart as we think we are, right? I mean, all of us are. I have the word called infallible, where we're human beings. We have our flaws. We have our. I for sure, when I sit in a room, I don't consider myself being the smartest person in the room, even though I'm leading an organization. But I tell them all the time, I'm not the smartest person here. You guys are the ones, because you're the ones that are working, getting the job done. And I say, if you come up with a problem, if you have the problem, you know what the solution is. I'll just be there orchestrating and making the decisions, and based on the best data that's available, and then have to move through a path and maybe see things from more of a holistic view. But you're the guys but when you have somebody that thinks that they know everything, that's also kind of a net negative energy dragger, which I just don't really like working with.
So let's say there's a person in their 20s, now they just got a leadership role.
Yeah.
What would the first meeting be like?
My first meeting would be, as I told you, it's like, don't.
What would be the topics of the meeting?
I'll say, for me, my topic will be, and we'll say, okay, fine, so what drives you, right? What drove you to become a leader? And try to understand where their mindset is. And what I would say to them is, okay, if I look at my journey, it's about being curious, about, curious. You have to want to learn. Even though you're in a position of leadership, you have to be always on a learning curve.
Why?
Because you don't know everything. I mean, if you put yourself in a position where you think you're a leader, oh, because I'm a leader, I know everything, that's why they chose me as a leader, then you're going to fail. Because you cannot do everything on your own. And you will not be able to get everything done on your own, right? I mean, you have to inspire the others around you to say, okay, fine, I will actually follow this guy, even though I'm not getting paid 100% the way I want to get paid. Or I'm not, because you have all those people coming there. Why should I, why should I work for you, right? Why should I go, not work for you, but why should I go the extra mile for you, right? So you want that other person to go the extra mile for you. And how would you make that other person go the extra mile for you? It's not through fear. Fear is very finite. There's only a few people that will function through fear, especially now in the day and age that we're in. We're not like back in the 50s, 60s, or whatever, 70s, where fear was, everything is hierarchy. No, now it's people. A lot of people know what they have. They know their
rights.
Their rights. So how do you engage with somebody like that to make sure that they come in on time, they get the job done, and they would go that extra mile for you? Those people want to be heard. They want to feel viable. So you as a leader need to make sure that you don't come in and pretend that you are or think that you're the smartest person in the room. You need to be curious. You need to be purposeful in terms of how you position your thoughts. And at the same time, you need to make sure that you're accountable for the people in your team. And what I mean by that is that you don't allow them to take the hit. You have to basically be in front taking the hits, right? So and you have to be with them in the field getting things done. I mean, because if you don't do that, right, and if you do that, they will actually, you will see, they see you roll up your sleeves, they will actually, okay, fine, look at this guy is sitting down over here rolling up his sleeves with me, and is actually willing to work with me down on the ground, and you see them go the extra mile for you. And at the same time, when you take the hit, because I always felt that it's like, when you're in a position where you're not being, when, like somebody threw you under the bus, that's the worst feeling in the world, right? Or even though like, okay, fine, I was at fault, and, but, and I had to stand alone to take that hit, it's not the greatest feeling in the world. But when somebody stands, and why I say this is because through my experience, one of my experiences, one of my managers stood up for me, and I never can forget that, right? Because I made a mistake, stood up for me, and he took the hit on my behalf. And I was like, wow. I was like, and that in my mind was like, and the way it made me feel, right? And it's like, I would go the extra mile for this guy, right? So, and that's how you need to inspire the people around you. It's not saying I know better than you, because you don't. Because believe me, you can't be in that position to know more than everybody all of the time. It's difficult.
And why you shared with me before the episode that climbing up the corporate ladder, the word leadership didn't sit with you well.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think it still is. Sometimes I feel it's a bit uncomfortable. I mean, I think the way I look at it is like I look at leaders as being these really bigger people, like their whole, like like Gandhis or whomever, like Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I mean, for me, these are leaders, right? Who am I, this average person, claiming to be a leader of people, and so for me, I had to really go through the journey of understanding what that word really meant, right? And it's not as it's just a word, right? But there is a lot of how should I put it? There's a lot of essence behind it in terms of how that it translates to everything that you do in life. So being a leader is, again, sitting down and listening to somebody. And giving the floor to speak, or hearing out their ideas, supporting them when they need to be supported, right? I mean, all those are nuances or points or inflection points of becoming a leader. It's not one thing. It's not a definition. It's how you conduct your daily life with the people that you're supposed to engage with on a daily basis. That's leadership.
Which this won't come under your job description
Doesn't
when
come
you
under-
assume a leadership
No.
role.
It's like when, how do you deal with a person that, you have people come in and work, and people say when you come in, you have to leave all your personal stuff outside, right? That's never this.
It's impossible.
It's impossible, right? When they're coming in, these people are coming in with baggage. Everybody comes in with baggage. Who has to take their parents to the hospital, who has their kids, and all of this stuff happens, right? That person is going through their own personal troubles, or they're going through successes and you don't know, right? So what I try to do is, okay, fine. I try to say, fine. For me, I think the leadership mindset is where you are able to connect with every single person on a human level, and understand, okay, where they're coming from. And maybe affect them in such a way that they will actually want to move forward, right? I think that to me is leadership, right? It's like a very human level. And that's when I look at the other leaders around me that I get inspired by. It's the human level, the human aspect that they have. And that to me is the mindset of leadership.
Yeah, and it's saying that connecting with everyone, when I think of the Prophet ﷺ,
Yeah.
he was the best at that.
Yes.
Connecting with different people.
Yes.
Different ages,
Yeah.
different backgrounds.
Exactly.
And still be able to motivate all of them through love.
Yes. It's just, and that's what it was, right? It was if you look at all the leaders, so you have obviously your corporate leaders, Steve Jobs and stuff like that. Those were very passionate and they were very forward thinking. But then afterwards, if you look at leaders that actually really impacted life, right? The life that we live in today, Isa alayhi salam, Rasul alayhi salam, the Gandhis of the world, the Malcolm X of the world, the Martin Luther, all these people that actually, it's again comes to how did these people make you feel? And that's what I always want to make sure. It's like, how do I make that person feel? Do I make them feel comfortable? Do I make them feel viable? And it's not about me being nice or whatever, but it's just the fact that I would want to feel that way. So how should that other person? Because I want that person to feel the way I would want to be felt, right? So that to me is the mindset. And that's the kind of impact that I want to leave in the world.
And one of the things you covered most of it. You mentioned to me, in your perspective, leadership is showing up, staying curious,
Yeah.
being accountable,
Yes.
and really caring
Yes.
about the people around you.
Yeah.
What do you mean by showing up?
For me, being a leader, showing up is about being present when things are amazing, when things are really, really bad. Because life is it's fluctuating, it's turbulent. So you cannot be in a position where you're not available when you don't want, when things are bad. So showing up is when things are even at the worst of the situation, you're there. And that's again what the people see around you, right? Was he there when things were really bad? And then that's what people will also remember. So for me, showing up is about being resilient. There's a quote that I get from Nelson Mandela. People don't really care about your successes. People care about how many times you fell and got back up again. And that to me is showing up.
And from you decided to create the high-performing culture.
Yeah.
What do you feel were the main key factors that you saw results out of the shifts that you made or you implemented, and then you saw results? Because you execute like many things, and then you see the most impactful parts came out of A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Let's say.
So for me, what it was we had a really good year last year. And based on the kind of the push that we did in terms of changing the culture and the mindset, we actually ended up getting very good results. However, that to me is not what really stuck in my mind. What stuck in my mind is how the certain people in the organization just changed, right? And I remember when I first joined Friend of Mobile was in 2022. I remember seeing them. They were very when I said there's some people that just felt like they didn't have, like, like, I don't know if you heard the word, that pep in their step. They're just not walking with a lot of purpose around them. They're just happy-go-lucky. Now you actually see that you see that the passion in their eyes, right? You see that they're actually coming into work and they really want to get things done. And that to me is just that elevated. And I really feel like, for me, I really want the Omanis, okay, to have that kind of purpose. Just walk in with purpose. Make sure you always come in with that intent, okay? And so, because when you come in with that intent, you're coming with that level of positive energy, okay? And your energy will be spread around everywhere else. And when somebody feels that energy, they will also respond in kind, right? And that's how you get, and you see it. And that to me was really the one thing, that shift that I saw, is that mindset. Because you can get good results. 1 year you get good results. Next year you may go, depending on market dynamics and all kinds of stuff, right? But if you have the right kind of mindset, the right people around you, the right culture, you'll be resilient, and you continue growing, even through tough times or hard times, right? And I think that's the growth that I've seen. When we introduced the high performance mindset or culture in the organization.
And from your perspective, what is the high performance mindset?
For me, the high performance mindset is just continue growing and improving yourself, and not being content with the situation that you're at or who you are. It's like there's ups and downs in anything that we do. You're never going to go through life on a linear curve. It's always going to be ups and downs. How are you going to, for me, a high performer is, when they fall down, do they get back up again? And how many times they fall down and how many times they get back up again is because every time you get back up again, believe me, you've moved one level up, because you've went through a learning curve, and that learning curve is taking you to the next level. And you will go through another learning curve, but you'll go through another level. And that is that incremental gain in your life or your daily journey. That's what's going to make you a continuous high performer. It's not, you're never going to get to there's never a peak. You just keep on treating it as a journey, and every day trying to improve on yourself.
Now, how do you sustain the energy to do that?
I think you have to wake up feeling that you have purpose in life, and you have to be, you have to have this feeling that I am viable, that I'm contributing to the world, I'm contributing to the things that I'm doing. It doesn't necessarily, you can say world, but it's really impacting the people around you, right? Because again, when you are impactful and or purposeful in what you do on a daily basis, others will also get, if they see that, right? Your kids see that, your extended family sees that, your friends, the people around you at work see that. So for me, that's what keeps me driven, is that I want to make sure that I always have, have a positive energy around the people around me. And that just keeps me going.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think we can go for another day.
Yeah.
But this was really good. I'm looking forward to share this one.
Thank you very much, Sham.
That was good.
Thank you.